My stepmother smiled as she handed me a glass of champagne I never asked for, and 10 minutes later, my father was loading my bags into his car while she stood on the porch screaming that none of this was fair. The party was supposed to be a celebration. My father and his wife, Patricia, were marking 8 years of marriage, and because my dad had never been the type to do anything halfway, he had rented out the back garden of a restaurant overlooking the water. There were string lights everywhere, a live band playing covers of songs my parents had danced to in the 90s, a cake that probably cost more than my first car. I was there because my father had asked me to be there. That was the beginning and the end of it, really. I was 17, spending every other week at his house, and I had learned a long time ago that showing up was easier than explaining why I didn't want to. So I put on the blue dress my mom had helped me pick out. I let my dad take a photo of me before we left, and I smiled to the first hour of small talk with people I barely knew while Patricia floated around the party like she was accepting an award. For the most part, I kept to myself. That was the arrangement my father had unknowingly facilitated over the years. I stayed out of Patricia's way. She stayed out of mine, and we both pretended the other didn't exist except for the brief moments when my father was looking directly at us. It wasn't healthy, I knew that even then, but it was functional, and after 5 years of living inside that dysfunction, I had stopped wishing for anything different. Patricia had 2 kids of her own. Derek was 19, already halfway through community college, and working in an auto shop. Morgan was 16, the same age as me, and she had made it her personal mission to pretend I was invisible whenever her mother wasn't watching. We went to the same school, passed each other in the hallways, and never once made eye contact. That was fine by me. I had my own friends, my own life at my mom's house, and I had learned to treat my father's home like a hotel I visited out of obligation. The night of the anniversary party, everything changed. I was standing near the dessert table, trying to decide whether the chocolate mousse was worth the extra 20 minutes of small talk I would have to endure to get to it, when my father came up behind me and put his hand on my shoulder. "Come on," he said, smiling in that way that made him look younger. "We're doing family photos. I want one with everyone." I hesitated. I had done enough of these over the years to know how they went. My father would stand in the middle. I would stand on one side. Patricia and her kids would stand on the other, and everyone would smile like we were one of those families you see in catalogs. Then the photo would go up on the wall, and I would have to look at it every time I came over, knowing exactly what it represented. "I'm fine," I said. "You guys go ahead." He squeezed my shoulder. "Come on, it'll take 2 minutes. I want my whole family in one picture." I didn't argue. I never argued with my dad, not because I was afraid of him, but because I could see how much effort he put into making things work. He was a good man. He had always been a good man. And somewhere along the way, I had decided that my job was to make things easier for him, not harder. So I followed him toward the little area near the water where the photographer had set up. Patricia was already there, adjusting her dress, and Derek and Morgan were standing off to the side looking bored. When I walked up, Morgan glanced at me and then looked away, and Derek pretended to check his phone. The photographer started arranging us. My dad in the middle, me on his right, Patricia on his left, the kids on either end. Standard formation. That's when Patricia laughed. It wasn't a loud laugh. It was the kind of laugh that someone lets out when they think they've said something clever, something that only certain people in the room will understand. But she had been drinking champagne all night, and the laugh came out a little looser than it probably should have. "This is perfect," she said, gesturing toward the grouping. "We can caption it, the real family and the reminder of the past." For a moment, no one moved. I felt the words land somewhere in my chest before I fully processed them. The reminder of the past. That was what she was calling me. In front of the photographer. In front of the guests who were milling around nearby. In front of my father. Morgan snickered. Derek cracked a smile. though he at least had the decency to look uncomfortable for half a second. I didn't cry. I was too stunned to cry. I just stood there, my hands at my sides, trying to figure out if I had heard her correctly or if the noise from the band had garbled something. My father turned his head, slowly, the way a person turns when they are trying to make sure they have understood something before they react. "What did you say?" he asked. Patricia was still smiling. "It was a joke," she said. "You know, because she's from before, it's not that serious." She was tipsy enough to think that was an explanation. She was comfortable enough in her position to assume he would laugh it off, the way he had laughed off a dozen smaller things over the years, the way he had always smoothed things over and kept the peace and told me to let it go because she didn't mean it. But something was different this time. I saw it in his face before he said anything, the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes went from confusion to something harder, something I hadn't seen directed at Patricia before. "You apologized to her," he said. "Right now." Patricia's smile flickered. "It was a joke. There's no need to." "I'm not asking." His voice was low, steady, the kind of voice that didn't leave room for negotiation. "You apologize to her now, or we're done. No questions. No second chances." She stared at him. The photographer had lowered his camera. Derek and Morgan were looking at their mother, waiting to see how she would handle it. Patricia laughed again, but this time it was tighter. "You're being ridiculous. It was clearly a joke. She knows it was a joke. There's no reason to make a scene." My father didn't respond to her. He turned to the photographer and said, "We're done here." Then he raised his voice slightly, enough for the guests nearest us to hear. "The party is over. Everyone can take their meals to go." The band stopped mid-song. People started looking around, confused. A few of Patricia's friends began walking toward her, probably thinking there had been some kind of misunderstanding. But my father was already moving. He put his hand on my elbow and guided me away from the photo setup, away from the dessert table, away from the crowd of people who were now whispering and pointing. "Go get your things," he said quietly. "We're leaving." I didn't argue. I walked toward the entrance of the restaurant where we had left our bags, and I heard Patricia's voice rising behind me. "You're ending the party? Dinner hasn't even been served. Are you serious right now?" I didn't turn around. I grabbed my bag from the coat check, and by the time I came back toward the garden, my father was already at the car, the engine running. Patricia was standing on the porch, her face flushed, her hands gesturing wildly. Derek and Morgan were behind her, looking like they wanted to be anywhere else. Some of the guests were lingering near the exit, holding their takeout containers, clearly unsure whether they should stay or go. "She doesn't need to apologize," Patricia was saying as my father opened the passenger door for me. "You are overreacting. This is insane." He didn't look at her. He got into the driver's seat, closed his door, and pulled out of the parking lot while she was still talking. The drive to his house was silent. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, trying to figure out what I was supposed to feel. Relief that he had finally said something. Guilt that it had happened at all. Fear about what would come next. When we got to the house, he started packing, not slowly, not hesitantly. He walked into the bedroom he shared with Patricia, pulled a suitcase out of the closet, and started filling it with clothes. I stood in the doorway, watching. "Go pack your stuff," he said without looking up. "Just what you need for the next few days." "Where are we going?" "Your mom's for now. I'll figure something out." I went to the room I stayed in when I was at his house, the one Patricia had decorated in beige and white, the one that never quite felt like mine, and I packed my things. I was zipping up my bag when I heard the front door open. Patricia's voice echoed through the hallway. "You left me there. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? In front of all those people." My father didn't answer. I heard the sound of his suitcase being pulled across the floor. Where are you going? Patricia's voice was higher now, losing its anger and gaining something that sounded closer to panic. You're not actually leaving. I told you what I needed from you, my father said. His voice was calm, but there was something underneath it that I had never heard before. You chose not to do it. It was a joke. She knows it was a joke. She's 17. You called her a reminder of the past in front of everyone we know. That's not what I heard what you said. His voice cracked for the first time. I heard it, and I've been hearing it for 5 years. The small comments, the way you look at her when you think I'm not paying attention, the way your kids treat her. I've been pretending I didn't see it because I wanted this to work, but I'm done pretending. I came out of my room with my bag. Patricia was standing in the hallway, her kids behind her, her face a mixture of shock and something that might have been fear. My father was by the front door, his suitcase in one hand, his keys in the other. Talk to me, Patricia said. We can fix this. Just come inside, and we can talk about it. I'm not the one you need to apologize to. She looked at me for the first time since we had gotten home. Her eyes were red. Her makeup was smudged. For a moment, I thought she was going to say something, but she just looked at me and then looked away. My father opened the front door. Let's go, he said to me. We walked out. Patricia started crying behind us. I heard Derek say something to her, a low mumble I couldn't make out. But my father didn't stop, and neither did I. He dropped me off at my mom's house. I didn't tell my mom everything. I didn't have the words for it yet, but she took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. She just hugged me and told me to text her if I needed anything. My father stayed in a hotel for 3 days. He called me every night, and every night he sounded a little more tired than the night before. He told me he was sorry. He told me he should have done something sooner. He told me that he had been selfish, prioritizing his marriage over my well-being, and that he would never make that mistake again. I told him it was okay. I didn't know what else to say. On the 3rd day, Patricia started texting me. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. I didn't mean what I said. You know I didn't mean it. Please just talk to your dad. Tell him you forgive me. I don't want to lose him. The messages kept coming. Every few hours, another one, apologizing, pleading, trying to explain. I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I was angry, but that wasn't why. But because I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her, not because she deserved it, but because I could see what was happening. My father had told her that he wouldn't come back until I forgave her, and she was desperate. But the other part of me kept replaying the moment at the party. The way she had smiled when she said it. The way Morgan had snickered. The way Derek had looked at me like I was an inconvenience that had shown up uninvited. I wasn't ready to forgive her. I wasn't sure I ever would be. A week passed. My father moved into a furnished apartment across town, and I went to see him after school a few times. He had lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. But he smiled when I walked in, and he asked about my classes and my friends and anything that wasn't Patricia. I finally asked him about it one afternoon when we were sitting on his new couch, eating takeout from the place down the street. Are you really going to divorce her if I don't forgive her? I asked. He put his fork down and looked at me for a long moment. That's not the only reason, he said. But yes, if you can't forgive her, I'm not going to ask you to. But you love her. I do. His voice was quiet. But I love you more. And I've been showing you the opposite for 5 years. I'm not going to keep doing that. I didn't know what to say to that. So I asked a question that had been sitting in the back of my mind for days. What's really going on? Between you two, I mean. This isn't just about the party, is it? He was quiet for a long time. I thought he wasn't going to answer, and I was about to change the subject when he finally spoke. We've been fighting for months, he said. About money, about the kids, about what she thinks she's entitled to. What do you mean? He told me everything. It started with college. My father had been saving for my education since I was born. It was a fund he had set up with my mom before they divorced, and he had continued contributing to it every month even after he remarried. It was the one thing he had always been consistent about, the one promise he had made himself that he wouldn't break. Patricia had assumed, somewhere along the way, that the fund would be split between me and her kids. Not because he had ever told her that. He hadn't. But because she had decided it was a fair thing to do. When she found out that he had no intention of dividing it, that he had only saved for me, she lost it. She called him selfish. She said he didn't care about her kids. She accused him of treating them like they didn't matter, like they were just an obligation he had taken on, because they came with her. He tried to explain. He told her that he supported them every day. The house, the cars, the vacations, the private school tuition for Morgan. He told her that he loved them, that he had tried to be a father to them, but that he couldn't take money away from me to give to them. It wasn't fair. They had their own father. He had passed away, yes, but there was an inheritance from him that Patricia had been holding on to for years. There was her own savings, the job she had quit without asking him, the lifestyle she had grown accustomed to without contributing to it. She didn't care. She wanted the money split 3 ways, and she wouldn't let it go. I didn't want to tell you any of this, my father said. You're 17. You shouldn't have to worry about this stuff. I'm not worried, I said. I didn't know how to finish the sentence. I was angry, I realized, not at my father, but at Patricia, for making him feel guilty about something he had every right to do, for treating me like I was less than her kids, for marrying him because he could provide for her, not because she loved him. I didn't say that last part out loud, but I thought it. What are you going to do? I asked. He sighed. I don't know yet. I need time to think. Don't stay with her just because you feel bad. I said, you don't owe her anything. You've already given her plenty. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just weren't paying attention. He laughed, and it was the first time I had heard him really laugh since the party. It made me feel like maybe things were going to be okay. 2 weeks later, my father went back to the house. He didn't go back because Patricia had convinced him. He went back because he wanted to see if there was anything left to save. He told me about it after the fact, standing in his new apartment, looking out the window at the parking lot below. She was the same, he said. For the first few days, she was on her best behavior, apologetic, understanding. She said all the right things. But then she started again, the same fight, the same demands. She said if I really loved her, I would treat her kids like my own. She said I was being unfair. She brought up your mom again, said I was still in love with her because I was willing to pay for your college but not for Derek's. That's ridiculous. I know. He turned away from the window. I tried to talk to her. I told her about her savings, about the inheritance, about the fact that she quit her job without asking me. She said it didn't matter. She said I had married her, so I had married her kids, and that meant I was responsible for them. What did you say? I said that I was responsible for them, but that being responsible for them didn't mean I had to give them everything they asked for, that I had been providing for them for 5 years, that I had never once complained about it, but that I wasn't going to take money away from you to give to them. That was where I drew the line. I waited. I knew there was more. She didn't take it well, he said. She said some things. Things I can't forget. What things? He was quiet for a long moment. She said you weren't really my family, that you were just someone I was obligated to because of your mom, that I should be focusing on the family I chose, not the one I was stuck with. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had known Patricia, didn't like me. I had known she tolerated me at best. But hearing that she had said those things to my father, that she had tried to convince him I wasn't really his family, was something else entirely. "What did you do?" I asked, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. I told her we were done. For good this time. I packed my things and I left. He sounded tired. Not angry, not sad, just tired. Like he had been carrying something heavy for a long time and had finally put it down. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be. You didn't do anything wrong." He paused. "The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. I let it go on for too long. I let her treat you like you didn't matter, and I told myself it was fine, because we were keeping the peace. But it wasn't fine. It was never fine. I didn't know what to say, so I just sat there on his couch and let him talk. He told me about the months of fighting, the things Patricia had said to him, the way she had tried to make him feel guilty for wanting to provide for his own daughter. He told me about the ultimatum she had given him, the accusations she had made, the way she had slowly but surely revealed that what she wanted from him wasn't love, but security. "I think she loved me," he said. "In the beginning, at least. But somewhere along the way, it became about what I could give her. And when I wouldn't give her everything she wanted, she started resenting me. Do you think she ever loved you?" I asked. He thought about it for a long time. "I don't know," he said finally. "I want to say yes. I want to believe that the good years were real. But looking back now, I'm not sure." The divorce was filed a week later. My father moved into a different apartment, one with 2 bedrooms, because he wanted me to have my own space when I stayed with him. It was smaller than the house he had shared with Patricia, and the furniture was basic, but it felt like his. There were no beige walls or family photos that made me feel like an outsider. There was just my dad, a couch that was more comfortable than it looked, and a kitchen table where we ate dinner together, without anyone making passive-aggressive comments. Patricia's demands in the divorce were surprisingly reasonable. She asked for alimony, but not an unreasonable amount. She agreed to vacate the house within 60 days. She didn't fight for the college fund, probably because her lawyer had told her she had no standing. My father's attorney said it would be resolved quickly. "She's trying to save money on legal fees." My father said when I asked him about it, "She knows if she drags us out, she'll end up with less in the long run. Do you think she'll be okay?" The question surprised me. I hadn't expected to care. But somewhere in the mess of the past few weeks, I had started to feel something other than anger. Not forgiveness, exactly, but something closer to acceptance. Patricia was who she was. She had wanted things she wasn't entitled to. She had treated me badly because she saw me as a threat to the life she had built for herself and her kids. That didn't make it right, but it made it understandable. "She'll be fine," my father said. "She has her savings. She has the house until she finds something else. She's been taking care of herself for most of her life. She'll figure it out." "What about Derek and Morgan?" "They're not my kids." He said it without bitterness, just as a statement of fact. "I care about them. I hope they do well. But they have a mother, and they have an inheritance from their father. They're going to be okay." I nodded. I wasn't sure I believed it, but I wanted to. A month after the divorce was filed, my father and I were sitting on the couch in his apartment, watching a movie I had picked out. He was quieter than usual, and I could tell there was something on his mind. "I've been thinking," he said during a commercial break, "about what Patricia said, about you not being my family. Dad, you don't have to." "Let me finish." He turned to face me, and I was struck by how different he looked from the man who had packed his suitcase that night at the party. The dark circles were gone. The tension in his shoulders had eased. He looked like himself again, the version of him I remember from before Patricia, from before everything got complicated. "You are my family," he said. "You have always been my family. And I am so sorry that I ever let anyone make you feel like you weren't." I didn't cry. I had done enough crying over the past month, and I was tired of it. But something in my chest loosened, something I hadn't even realized was tight. I know, I said. I always knew. I should have said it sooner. I should have done a lot of things sooner. Maybe. I leaned my head against his shoulder, the way I used to when I was little. But you did them eventually. That's what matters. He put his arm around me, and we sat like that for a while, not talking, just watching the movie. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like things were exactly where they were supposed to be. The divorce was finalized 2 months after it was filed. Patricia moved into a townhouse across town, and Derek and Morgan went with her. I heard through the grapevine that Morgan had transferred to a different school, which was probably for the best. I didn't need to see her in the hallways anymore, pretending we didn't know each other. My father kept the apartment for a while, but eventually he bought a small house a few blocks away from my mom's. It had a garden in the back and a porch swing and a room that he let me paint whatever color I wanted. I chose blue, the same blue as the dress I had worn to the anniversary party. The night everything fell apart and put itself back together, I didn't forgive Patricia. Not because I was holding a grudge, but because forgiveness felt like something she needed more than something I could give. What I felt for her wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't even sadness. It was just a quiet acceptance that she had been a chapter in my father's life, and that chapter was over. My father dated again, eventually, a woman named Helen, who worked at the library and had a laugh that filled up whatever room she was in. She was kind to me without trying too hard, and she never once made me feel like I was in the way. I didn't know if it would last, but I hoped it would. My father deserved someone who loved him for who he was, not what he could provide. And me? I was 17, then 18, then off to college with the money my father had saved for me, the money he had refused to give away even when it cost him his marriage. I studied what I wanted to study. I made friends who didn't know anything about my past unless I told them. I called my dad every week, and every week he sounded a little happier than the week before. The night of the anniversary party, the night Patricia called me a reminder of the past, had been one of the worst nights of my life. But looking back, I could see that it was also the night my father finally chose me, finally saw me, finally stopped pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. I don't think about Patricia much anymore. When I do, it's not with anger or sadness. It's just a quiet acknowledgement that she was part of the story, and then she wasn't. The story kept going, as stories do, and the people who were meant to be in it stayed. My father is happy now. I'm happy now. And maybe that's the only ending that matters.